Okay, this is going to be a quick little follow-up video to the sacking of Ron Koeman. Basically, I had a comment on the previous video that I did about his sacking in the last couple of hours. Who do Everton find to replace him? And this goes the same for Leicester trying to replace Craig Shakespeare. Yes, they have Everton as caretaker. This is going out to both clubs. Who do they find to replace the managers they've got rid of? And bear in mind, Craig Shakespeare was involved in the Premier League winning management side. He was Ranieri's assistant, so he's got his hands on a trophy. Ronald Koeman has won titles abroad, and he did really well at Southampton. So who do they find to replace him? They've got a League Cup tie to play this week. They showed on Match of the Day, if you go on the BBC iPlayer and you look back at Match of the Day and Match of the Day 2, they showed a list of prospective candidates for the Leicester job. Now, Pellegrini is dead on top. He's up there. Appleton is on that list because he's caretaker. He is. But who goes into Everton? Now, Leicester have got a recent track record of being in Europe, getting to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and obviously win the Premier League. Everton haven't done so well league-wise, and they've only got the one final in the FA Cup since 1995. So who replaces Koeman? What style of football do they want to play? What culture do they want to have? And how do they want to go with the local youth, or do they want to bring players in? Because the transfer window doesn't open for another 2 months, so they're a little bit stuck for bringing players in. They are stuffed in that respect. They've got to work with the players they've got for the foreseeable months. So, who replaces him? Now, I'm not a fan of Everton. I'm a Blackburn fan, so I have no real interest. Personally, I'm not invested as a fan. However, I do have fans on my Twitter who are Everton fans, and on my YouTube who are Everton fans who, rightly so, comment and like and subscribe to the channel and are interested in my channel. So I understand their frustrations. They don't want David Moyes and they don't want Unsworth. Now, Unsworth, great player for the club. David Moyes, previous incarnation, brilliant. He's had a rocky road as a manager since leaving Everton and going to Man United. It's been nothing but bad. He struggled at Man United, he struggled at Real Sociedad, and he struggled at Sunderland. So he hasn't had a great run with his last 3 appointments. And I fear if they go back that way, they're getting relegated. It didn't work for Keegan going back to Newcastle. It sort of didn't work for Dalglish, although he did win a League Cup going back to Liverpool. It didn't sort of work. Yes, he won the Premier League with my team Blackburn, and yes, he did really well with Newcastle when he was there for a brief period. But when you take a long time out of a club or a long time out of management, you go back into some work. Who do they go for? If Appleton doesn't get the job at Leicester, because he wants to stay there for 3 years, finish out his contract because he signed up for that, would he be a good fit? He has worked in the Premier League before. He's worked in the region before at Blackpool and at Blackburn, so he knows the regional northwest fan base are very passionate, and there's a hotbed of football in that part of the country. The problem with the north of England with football is they've got to compete with rugby league, and rugby league is nicking fans, because I've noticed a lot of empty seats in stadiums the last, I would say, couple of weeks. I was watching Match Today and then the Football League highlights on Channel 5 on Saturday, and I noticed a lot of empty seats at stadiums, lots, in all leagues. There was a lot of empty seats, even for like local derby games, as I would call it, or passionate games that had real meaning. There were not sellouts. And if you look at the Football League structure and the amount of clubs in the Football League, yes, the south of England, the south east, and the south coast does have a lot of representation in the Football League. But I think over half the clubs are based north of Birmingham in the Football League. So they're north of England. It's not an even distribution around the country. The Midlands obviously has a hotbed of football. The north east, the northwest, and obviously Yorkshire, Lancashire, London, and then the rest of the country is a bit more patchy where the professional clubs are. So where do Everton go? Do they go domestically and find a manager who's British or who's been based in Britain for a while, or do they look abroad? It's a difficult question. It all depends on Bill Kenwright and where the new owner, who was also alongside him yesterday at yesterday's defeat, they want to go. And I said in the previous video, I might malign Arsenal a lot for sticking with Wenger as long as he has, but without Wenger, that club is in the situation Everton are, the situation Leicester are, the situation you find Swansea or how Man United started to fall off the rails the last 7 years. So management stability is key, very key. The fact that unfortunately they haven't replaced players who've left or retired, like Tony Hibbert, I mean he was underused towards the end of his career. Unsworth, you lose. They're not household names outside of Merseyside, but Hibbert is a one club man, very underused. When you have Gareth Barry leaving the club, admittedly he's near the end of his career, he's at West Brom now, but when you lose players like Gareth Barry, when you lose players like Pienaar, when you lose players like Lukaku, big name players, even club players who just have a voice in the dressing room and you don't replace them, there's the symptoms of the problem. So whoever comes in is going to have a difficult choice and difficult decisions to make. The way the Premier League goes at the moment, foreigners seem to be to bring someone in who's coached abroad seems to be the way. It doesn't always work. Benitez, when he came back into Newcastle, he'd never been in a relegation dogfight before they got relegated, but he brought him back up, and he's the right man, I think, to lead Newcastle forward. So Bill Kenwright's got a lot of thinking to do. A lot. Ranieri is available. Pellegrini is available. They both coached and won trophies in the Premier League. They've coached at the top level. They've won trophies. They've won titles. They are very capable managers, and they will. Yes, they are foreign, but their English is perfect. They've worked in the Premier League on and off for many years, and they've brought silverware to their clubs. I do hope it's not Moyes. He needs to take a lot of time out away from football because his managing career has gone completely. He looks burnt out. But Merseyside is a hotbed. It's like, as I say about the North East with Newcastle and how they're the only team from the North East in the Premier League. Everton, if they had to slip out of the Premier League, that would be damaging to Merseyside because Liverpool are not the team they were either. With Tranmere across the water now in the what was in the National League, the Conference, the Merseyside area needs. It's very similar to the North East. It's going through a rough patch, football wise at the moment, and they need stability. And I honestly could. It's difficult for me to put a finger on it and figure out the problem because I'm not a fan of Everton and I'm not a journalist. I am literally just a YouTube guy who is a sports nut who discusses what I see and what I read and the performance and the highlights I've seen of Everton and the video clips I've seen this season and the reports coming out, and I'm going not just from the newspapers, I'm also looking at the various news outlets, be it Sky Sports, BBC Sport, the newspapers online, the newspapers in print, what fans are saying on Twitter. I'm using various sources to build a picture of what's going on at Everton, and it looks like a club that has terminal decline. Bill Kenwright has to now step aside and allow young blood to come into the chairman role. The new owner is obviously going to be injecting money, and they need the money. So, but they need a manager with ideas that are open. Because from here sounds of it, Koeman was very strict in the box, very rigid in his approach to management and bringing these players forward, and the players he's brought in haven't performed. I think Rooney has passed it. I mean, Rooney I think was always overrated. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just think he was always the prodigal son. He was never. He's like Gascoigne. He's flawed. He has a genetic thing where he's going to get fat. He's probably better suited to playing rugby, to be honest, than football. It just so happened his brothers also are decent football players, and they're at their level, which is the lower leagues, if not non-league. But they still the whole family are quite talented. I'm not disputing that. But if you look at his weight gain, he does have a weight issue, and it's his natural weight. It's not he's a slob. It's just Wayne Rooney and his genetics mean he's a stocky individual. He's like a slightly bigger version of Maradona. And he is exceptionally talented. He's a very skilled player, but he should never be made captain of England. He was always overhyped, and now he's past it. He's probably better suited to playing in League One or League Two, I'm not joking on that. And I'm not disputing the skill level of League One and League Two, because there are some very, very good players who play in the lower leagues who might deserve a chance in the Premier League, but the way football's gone at the moment, it's not going to happen. I'm not saying Wayne Rooney's a bad player. I'm not. He's tempered his temperament. He's not getting sent off like every other game. He'll occasionally get bookings, but he's controlled his temper a little bit. He is a hard workhorse. Is what you need. He's a box to box player. If that was any other sport, he is a two-way player, and that is what you need, because a lot of forwards are lazy and goal hang and just stay up the pitch and do nothing, and then they get isolated and they complain in their pension. So he's not one of them. He will put 110% in. He's just overrated. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Please like and subscribe. Please place comments below and give us your ideas of who replaces Ronald Koeman. Thank you very much for watching.